Hey, Yetta, do you think you could get me like 3 French hens for Christmas this year?
You'd better call the city before we do that.
Moving forward with the Dekker Team. Moving forward together with the Dekker Team.
We are excited to welcome you to another episode of Life's Inside Track. I'm Yetta Dekker.
And I'm Ken Dekker.
And it's where we share tactics, tips, truths, and some tactics that we all need, you, I, everyone, so we can turn our house into home, our families thrive, and we live the best life possible. We're going to consider why zoning bylaws and restrictive covenants, yes, it's a mouthful even for me, are something you want to consider before you make some big decisions around your house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to talk about some cases where people have been bitten by zoning
by
issues.
hens?
Nope. Bitten by bylaw, bitten by restrictive covenants. Now, you might get pecked by a hen, but you probably won't get bitten.
Okay. Well, that's probably true. And when it comes to chickens,
Yes.
which is kind of where the whole joke started at the beginning, when we were unpacking it, one of the things that shows up in bylaw is that you've got to be on 2 acres or more.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have rural, residential, or agricultural, or a straight rural zone.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you have plenty of room for chickens, and yet it's not a permitted use. So
unless you're agricultural,
right.
the maximum's up to 10 chickens and no roosters.
No
Because
roosters.
they're noisy little guys.
They are. They're crazy noisy. And we're talking chickens. Maybe you don't want some chickens. Maybe you don't want 3 French hens for Christmas like Ken did. And yet there may be other things you do want, like something so simple as a pool. I know we're on over an acre, and so a pool should be a slam dunk, right?
Nope.
Nope, not necessarily, because zoning matters, where things can be placed, what the different ability is for you from a restricted covenant may be the issue. Ours isn't a restricted covenant. Ours is because we are on a creek. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we have to be so far away from the water that it would be near impossible for us to put a pool.
Yeah, because then it gets too close to the septic system.
Right.
So you got all kinds of variables when you're looking at. And it's very, very important. We've had people that have had to sell their home because the restrictive covenants. Well, let's back up for a second. We've been talking bylaw, zoning, and restrictive covenants. And maybe you don't, that's common language for us. Maybe it's not common language for you. So zoning is set by the city or the municipality, and it's the type of use that you can put on a particular property. And zonings can be anywhere from like heavy commercial to light industrial to retail or general commercial, highway commercial, can be residential. And different levels of residential allow different densities as to how many units can be on one lot, right? So zoning is a very, very important thing.
Yeah.
And the interpretation of that zoning, the description and understanding what you can put there in a particular zoning.
And how much of it you can put there.
Right. That's where people get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And then bylaw is extra rules that prevent certain things from happening in certain areas. And it could be for the whole city, or it could be just certain districts.
Or it could even be provincial.
Yes.
So in the case, which is a kind of a fun one, but go back to 2008, if you were buying in Canada, I don't know if you remember this time, but people would be part of Canada, not all of Canada. There was parts of Canada that you could not put a clothesline up. It was prohibitive in the bylaw for that area. And in 2008, it was deemed, oh, yes, you can. And provincially, it was eventually overwritten that no one could mandate the bylaws. No municipality could say that clotheslines were not an option.
Yeah, that's a cute saying. The Ontario government put a ban on bans on clothesline mans. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except there were lots of people upset, and that's how it eventually happened, right? People put clotheslines up. Bylaws are often only, and that's an important thing to understand, bylaws and restrict covenants and even zoning infringement are only addressed by the municipality, generally speaking, when there is a complaint. Or many
Or
complaints.
it's blatant.
Or it's blatant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know. So sometimes people say, I don't really care what the bylaw says, don't really care what the zoning is, don't really care what the restrict covenants are. I'm just going to do what I want to do where I am. Just beware that when you choose that route, you may at some point have to stop. Or you may have to move because it's that big a deal for you.
Excuse me. And we're going to talk about a number of cases that we've run into. Not that we set people into that situation, but we found out they were, and they're looking for solutions, right? Like a church office was in a residential home, and they were required to move out of that property and not use it for an office, even though it was not disturbing really the neighbors or whatever, but it wasn't the proper use for the zoning.
Intended use.
Yeah, another one across from my office at one point, they put in a car wash, and it's like a bay, it's like light industrial zoning, and it had a bay door, and they washed cars. Well, car wash was not an allowed use in that neighborhood. Now, they managed to get a variance to be able to continue use of it, but there's no guarantee of that. They may have had to move their business.
Which is a big deal, right? Someone we know bought a property, and I think they had some sense that in the city of Ottawa, there's a 3-dog limit, right? In residential, unless you're going to get a kennel license and you're going to abide by the rules and regulations in that particular municipality. And it changes from one municipality to another, from one side of the street to another, because the municipality changes. They bought a home anyway and have a kennel and breed, and they have 8 dogs. And the neighbors complained, and now they're selling their home after a major renovation, after buying in COVID prices. They're going to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars because bylaw wasn't considered. We were not representing them, which I'm happy, but I'm sad for them because that's not a fun thing to endure for anybody.
No, it's not. No. And we've had to help people sell a house sometimes because they bought in a country kind of setting, like a village setting, and they have an RV, a fifth wheel, and the restrictive covenants of the subdivision disallowed commercial vehicles or trailers in the laneway. So even though their laneway is super long, they couldn't park their RV there.
Well, they could physically.
Yeah.
But they weren't permitted to.
Right.
Another one is pools. We alluded to our pool thing, but some restricted covenants mean you're not allowed pools in that area. Certain height of fence, way shorter than what is allowed based on bylaw. So there's lots of confusion. So if you're thinking I need some help, first thing is probably call the city and get your questions answered. And if you want a consultation to have some direction as to where to call, what you need to ask, give us a shout.
Yeah, and we're honored to be positioning you to build wealth wisely because it's about much more than just money.
Moving forward with the Dekker Team. Moving forward together with the Dekker Team.